Okay, welcome to For the Record, Open Mic Edition. I am Brad Updegraff with Dave's Ultimate Automotive in Austin, Texas. Today, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the battle between dealerships and the independents for the technicians of today and tomorrow. But before we get going, here are some important messages from our partners.
ShopBoss is software built by shop owners for shop owners. ShopBoss offers real solutions backed by real experience. Simply put, it's shop management software that works your way. When customers are in the lobby and cars are on the lift, you don't have time for a learning curve. Now that's where ShopBoss comes in with profit-boosting features that work the way you need them to right out of the box. From built-in DVI to robust customizable reporting, ShopBoss makes everything about running a shop work more smoothly. Plus, with their Boss Pay Payments feature powered by 360 Payments, you can enter the era of totally paperless payments. From text-to-pay, remote payments, and consumer financing options to compliant surcharging, and now even offering PayPal and Venmo options, everything is built right into ShopBoss. Plus, everything is backed by a fantastic support team with one goal in mind: your success. Be the boss with ShopBoss.
Okay, so to start, I think I'd like to first acknowledge some of the harsh realities we have of today. The first being the number one industry challenge we have in our nationwide, not enough technicians. Being in plenty of seminars, ownership groups, and having colleagues across the country, we're all facing the same problem. And then you add in the fact that now the electronic vehicle market has blown up and expanded, and those obviously require a specific type of technician that is in even shorter supply. So that is a real challenge that we are all faced and dealing with today that certainly is not going to fix itself. My hopes are through this, share some of the strategies that we're using today, also along with sharing some of the things that haven't worked so well. Another reality is that the dealerships and manufacturers have been playing this long game for a while. They have figured out that they needed to create a pipeline for their own technician groups decades ago. I was a high school student in the mid and late 90s. I wound up as an intern in an Acura dealership when I started with the Automotive Technician Program as my senior year. That was actually a really weird experience for me. And honestly, if I'd have gauged that as what to take out of the automotive industry, I would have probably left the industry and never been what I am today. My first week at that dealership, I was shadowing the lead technician. I was kind of under his arm, trying to figure out how to help and everything. And it seemed like within 2 weeks, the boss at the shop had put me into some office where I was watching Acura training videos for the rest of my semester at that school. And really, I didn't learn anything other than a lot of Acura information. But, I completed my, automotive program and got an A out of it, amazingly, right? Obviously, that's an issue. Thinking about it from, what do we do about it? These same seminars that are telling us where all these problems are also telling us some of the solutions that they're suggesting, one of which is growing your own technicians. We've been hearing about it for years. If you've been asking or curious about what to do about it, there's no shortage of information out there about how to build your own technicians. We started looking at it and realized it's kind of a two-part factor, right? So certainly you need to be able to create a relationship with the school system that's close to you, that has an automotive program. But more importantly, to marry that properly, you actually have to have the proper culture of training inside your company, inside your shops, to be able to speak to that at these high school events that you're going to. Kind of strategize or talk to you a little bit about where we started in this and what hasn't worked, and certainly what has. Being a NAPA Auto Care Center, we started with the NAPA Apprenticeship Program that was built in the Auto Care websites. I thought it was really, really well done. And in fact, it's been enhanced through, I think, Mr. McNeil and his technician. They did a fantastic job of really breaking down each individual part of the process. And I saw that as just an amazing way to take somebody that had no education in the automotive industry and getting them to a very solid career path within a 2-year time frame to where they can practically be a flag technician of their own. And it works for a specific type of role. However, it didn't work for everything. So we had actually learned about the apprenticeship program at a recent NAPA seminar. It was almost like the next week that the ideal student actually came to us. She had no industry experience. She actually came out of a grocery store. She was, worked in the back as like a stocking technician, but had a ton of industry just interest. Her dad had worked on cars. She never owned any tools, never worked professionally in a shop, but she had all this heart and all this desire and all this drive. And that drive is exactly what I was looking for. Essentially, we started the program with her. I had a technician that he had actually won a NAPA ASC Technician of the Year award a couple years prior. Definitely a super smart guy, and figured that was an excellent technician to pair with the student. Working with the senior technician and that student, we made it to about the 8-month point before we had to pull the plug on the program. Unfortunately, there were some challenges with the marrying of those two, the student and the technician, realizing that my technician, while he's super, super smart, not always the best instructor and teacher. We also had some physical limitations with the young lady where twerking things and things that were going to require a lot of physical effort, were past the capabilities that she had at that time. And she also started realizing that we needed to focus her skill sets into a specific area of the automotive industry if she was going to continue. But as a result of that, it certainly wasn't a failure at the 8-month point. We gave her definitely a good career path and a lot of good knowledge in a short amount of time to move forward. We just weren't able to continue with the specific program that we had started with her. But that takeaway was really helpful, and realizing that, we needed something that was going to be a little faster paced than, a start to, 0 to 2-year, program. And we also needed to create kind of a hybrid plan for technicians that are either already worked with the company or already had some experience that really just needed some extra guidance to become flag technicians of their own. And we wanted to be able to figure out how to keep it fluid, get feedback, figure out what works and what doesn't, and try to make sure it was adjustable along the way instead of so rigid. We decided with laying out all the shop ideas, we needed to figure out a little bit better idea of who our training technicians were, right? So looked at it again, so the folks that you have that are your natural leaders in the shop, the folks that you see as kind of just the Papa Bears of the company that always want to kind of be involved with whatever, problem might be going on in the shop, just kind of those natural leaders that, the technicians already kind of look to already. Ideally, they should already be a little bit curious about and or a student to what's new and what's changing in the industry. You certainly want a technician that isn't stuck in, the vehicles of the 1990s and early 2000s, and that's all they want to work on. The EV market changes that are coming, heck, even the added ADAS technology that's been required, that does require some added training. So when you have a technician that's already eager to try to learn that themselves, they're much more likely to be a good educator as well. When it comes to outside of work, the type of human being in general that winds up being a good educator, you also notice they tend to be organic helpers and teachers and outside of automotive, realms, good coaches for kids' teams. Folks like, that tend to fill those roles are also, folks we're looking for that kind of education mindset, be the good teachers of the shop, but also certainly you need to make sure that this individual is going to be malleable to comp plan changes, because that's definitely one area that is a little uncomfortable for the growing technician, certainly the seasoned technician that's losing some of their capability to produce at a high capacity. They're worried about how to maintain the same kind of paychecks, right? And so these pairings that you have for a student and a training technician are designed to also help a technician continue to make a high level of money that they were used to earning as well. So we'll talk a little bit about the comp plans as we go. Next, and also a very important thing, is knowing and selecting the right students and trainees. So where I thought this young lady had all the key points we were looking for as far as heart, desire, and everything, unfortunately, we didn't know some of the physical limitations that would provide, a challenge to education. But certainly thinking about all those factors ahead of time gave us a little bit of a list of what we look for. So I'll share some of that. I always recommend look inside your company first, outside of going, to looking for customer service professionals in another industry and trying to turn them into technicians. Figure out that you don't want to pass up somebody that, might be waiting for their opportunity inside your company and just needs somebody to, kind of lift them up and say, hey, okay, we're going to make you, move you into this next level, right? I highly recommend, you're looking for the ones that are already hang around and help the technicians on their own, not because they're getting paid to do it, because they're interested, or, certainly people that just don't want to stay bored and they want to constantly be there, trying to figure out what's next, how they can help and participate. The ones that actually come to you and ask for training, those are also a great candidate. The ones that are looking for, those classes that a lot of the parts stores provide after hours. Certainly ones that are always looking to better their situation. Now that's kind of I've had several of these that we consider them a bit of a flight risk, right? The folks that are never quite satisfied with the role that they're in, they're always looking for that next role. Frankly, that's kind of great, right? You don't want somebody that's constantly okay with being stagnant. You want somebody that's really, always trying to figure out what that next step's going to be for them and how they fit into it. And in reality, you need to make peace with the fact that those people might not always stay with your company. I wouldn't expect to try to keep everybody that you're training, but I would expect to try to train everybody that you get to come through. The technician shortage is nationwide, right? So it's not just helping you with your shop, it's helping the industry as a whole with more technicians, right? So we certainly graduate technicians faster than I can, keep them employed in our company in those cases, but we certainly wish them the best. In a lot of cases, they even wind up back in our company should, other technician opportunities come up when we don't have a spot open right now. You definitely make great connections along the way. The students that certainly need to understand the value of training, it's important. I certainly deal with a class of kiddos that come in that already believe that, they have all the education they need to be successful enough to make good money, and they're going to figure out the rest along the way. Well, the figuring out the rest along the way is really where that extra education comes in. And I think some folks just really try to do it a little bit of a different way. We all know those technicians, but they might not be the best students for your program. So just, understand it. And if they get passed up on something like that and ask why, you can certainly allude to the fact that they certainly don't indicate that they're willing to be patient for an education process and, work through them from that perspective. Frankly, everybody wants to know what's in it for them, so we've got to be able to provide a return on their investment as well as ours, right? So certainly you've got to be able to have a package and a pitch to them. That actually brings up my next phase of this, which is about comp structures and incentive plans. I certainly recommend being prepared to think outside the box when it comes to pay, putting your money where your mouth is as a business owner, and making sure that you're not creating a perception of trying to figure out the cheap way to get this answer done, to get the right level technicians in your shop. There's several different ways to do it. We actually noticed that, some of your entry-level technicians that come in, one of the biggest barriers they have for growth in this industry is the lack of tools. As the NAPA Apprenticeship Program had built a really, really great toolkit for a starter level technician, we mirrored a similar type of toolkit, modified it for, kind of what was better for what we thought, in the stages that, we're trying to train for, created a comp plan structure that allows the technician to get paid and earn the dollar value of that toolbox over a certain amount of time. If you've got, say, hourly students, we can do this several different ways. Moving away from the toolbox, as far as like hourly students that are going to be on a kind of training program, we would have them at hourly rates anywhere between, kind of starting higher rate for us is around 15. We've had them up to about 18 or 19, depending on a current skill set that they already had. And then they also earn what we call a flag multiplier on top of that. So essentially for any of the big boy work they do, that's outside of general service traffic, stuff, oil changes, tire rotation work, they're earning $5 to $10, and it's a pre-adjusted preset rate for any flag hours that they're turning, whether they're supervised directly or not at that time. The teaching technician, whether they were involved in that specific job or just charged with the quality control side of it, is essentially going to see their flag rate reduced by the extra amount that we're paying that hourly technician. But the benefit to that flag tech is the fact that they're not actually having to do all that work. They still get to earn however many hours of pay that flag job landed, minus the rate that we were actually paying the junior technician. So essentially, it's kind of like paying your flag tech the full rate of what they were going to do had they done that job, except you've now got a junior technician getting into a higher skill set under guidance and learning how to do it the right way, your particular store's expectations way, and with all the safeguards that are in place that you need for quality control and workmanship, right? I've certainly seen from technician side of things that until they see how that pay plan works, they're very nervous. They don't understand wanting to get paid less for an hour in some cases. So you really need to make sure you have your head wrapped around that process and be able to sell it well. But I do see where it works quite well in that time. If you happen to have a comp structure in your shop where you have all flag or salary technicians, you can still run a foreman type of role where there's certainly your lead tech that's your training technician is in charge and kind of dutied with making sure that the quality level of the output of that shop matches a specific goal you set for them. But they also collect on, say a foreman would actually earn about $5 for every flag hour produced under the watch of that shop, or under his watch in that shop, with the qualifiers of, customer relations expenses, so quality control service side of things, and a minimum output of the shop. So you certainly don't, want the weeks where everybody's struggling to, also be, weeks that the technicians, making an additional flag hour comp as well. So you set up, boundaries for how that program needs to work. Obviously, if it's really, really poor traffic time in the shop or something, everybody's kind of starving, and doing, survival of the fittest kind of thing. That's really not a time where the foreman role thrives, right? So I would be very mindful of, how that's going to work, and certainly try to have your boundaries in place for what could happen if things don't work. But essentially, it is a role that seems to work pretty well, for a couple of things. One, it does help bring up technicians that aren't at that highest level yet, because they're going to get work that they wouldn't normally get under a scenario where you have somebody more experienced guiding them. But it also helps overall shop output. If you're able to have pretty much any technician in your shop doing even the highest level types of work that come in, with guidance, then it certainly increases your output capacity as well. You will see a little bit of a drop in the profit margin based on the amount of labor margin. But if you look at it in total sales, I haven't certainly noticed anything that has been detrimental to the company from that side of things. So I certainly recommend a comp plan that works like this. Certainly works for the labor structure of our profits. But going back to the tool programs real quick, I know I've kind of bounced around a little bit here, but we actually did this a couple ways. The NAPA Toolbox Guide, that was kind of where it started. We did a couple different hybrid plans, one of which was an hourly student that bought the tools through a reduced hourly pay over time. That was basically $5 of every hour they were working clock hour got paid towards the box. So for instance, instead of making $17 an hour, they were really making $12 an hour. That extra $5 was going towards what we had already given them as far as tools. The agreements behind that tool contract are, until it's paid off, they are our tools. But at the point in time that you have hit the predetermined amount of hours that would equal that toolbox paying off, they belong to you at that point. We've also done structures for tool truck payments as well. So when you're trying to get a technician to grow their inventory and they're on a limited income, but say, for instance, an hourly employee or something like that, you want to have some help or assistance in how that gets done. I created a 6-month point where an employee or an hourly employee that's worked for us for 6 months, they earn $25 a week on the tool truck. Now, that doesn't mean they go and buy some gloves or anything. We want it to be specific to tools. They have to open their own charge account with the tool trucks, and we're just basically making a payment on their behalf on a weekly basis. When they hit the 2-year point of working with us, then that payment goes up to actually $40 a week. And if you imagine knowing what tool trucks will run as far as credit balances, that'll definitely get you a decent amount of tools to get going on. I would certainly create some, guardrails and boundaries along that as well. You certainly, want to make sure that you're wise about the type of tools that you're allowing them to purchase and things like that. But yeah, so that's about it on the comp structure side of things. So you're kind of building up the program for how the shop, what you're going to pitch to the high school when you get there, right? So you now have different types of training programs for your technicians when they make it to your shop. And you can speak to the programs you have when you go to the high school, which is kind of the next step in what we're talking about here. The foundation of students, that's our pipeline. These are the youngins. These are the ones that you want to make it to your shop before they go to the dealership, are soured by, their experience there, right? So you want to figure out what target, which high school systems are going to be the right ones for you. Look for the ones that already have an advanced career technical education program, simply just because they're already mindful towards trying to have their students into apprenticeship type roles or internship type roles for their senior years, what they call a practicum year. And once you've developed or figure out who you're dealing with and who you'd like to be working with, I certainly recommend financially supporting them, and not just in the football and band boosters, but certainly, and those are important, just so they know that you're certainly in it to be there and support them. But really their biggest need of support is always in the budget for the actual automotive education program. And that's really where I found our best points of contact, So one of the things that they'd love you to do is to go tour the shop. And when we did that, we found several areas that they could certainly use some equipment help. And we had an opportunity to donate an old Hawkeye aligner from Hunter that we weren't using anymore, just from some shop consolidation. So, and it happened to marry perfectly with theirs because they did not have an aligner and were trying to teach steering and suspension. That's a problem, right? So them being able to do that enhanced their ability to provide a better steering and suspension education plan for the junior technicians. That way, when they come senior, they're even further along the process by the time they make it to your shop. And they certainly appreciate anytime you can provide financial help or equipment help for them, they're hugely appreciative because they only get a yearly budget that's predetermined by corporate people, not them. It's always very, very thin on equipment, things that they're going to be able to fund it for. So certainly look for opportunities to be able to, help out in those ways. That's actually been where, kind of we started our relationship with the high school locally close to us. We noticed the admin was super eager to help and facilitate getting their seniors enrolled. We went from one this last year to now we're going to have 3 seniors in our company. We have several locations. So we have the ability to move them around and stuff, but the idea is to, have them working, they're going to be working kind of short part-time roles and gaining some experience. And the idea is if you can get them to the point where they're not needing constant oversight by the time they're graduating high school, then they're ready for employment and they have already know what shop they want to go work for, right? So it's a great time to kind of fill your bases with, students that, are eager and that want to be in this industry. You get a chance to kind of really sell the company before anybody else does when you're in their classrooms and kind of pitching them about how your programs work, what to do. Really, you get to even share your own story. That was one of the coolest things. When I go into these classes, obviously half of them aren't even paying attention to you, but the ones that are all in, and they really want to know what their opportunity looks like in this career field. And to know that you started out pushing brooms and now you're a business owner, it means a lot to them. And then to also find out you didn't have to go to college to get the education you needed to become a business owner, or say you just became the best of your, the master technicians in that company, right? To know that you didn't have to complete, a 4-year college to get to that point is really big for them. They're looking for basically the college alternative, right? And this is an awesome industry that's somewhat recession proof, really. And it's really an easy one to pitch to anybody that's willing to listen, right? So just know you're going to have an audience of folks that don't want to listen and some that certainly are all about it. You're selling it to those folks, right? You only need incrementally to get a few people interested out of every class that you go to. But we go to, if you think about, they have career fairs, they have stuff that's really like not in anybody's comfort zone to go talk to a bunch of high school kids, but I kind of treated it like I was talking to my own kids, and it kind of changed a little bit about how I felt being in those places and working outside of those comfort zones. And it kind of got fun. And now that we've been in doing it for a couple of years, we start seeing these kids coming back and through. They're remembering us, we're remembering them, and we're picking up on conversations. Or that was really the fact that, you're there that second time just reinforced that decision that they just made, that they're going to come at least try out the automotive industry, right? So I highly recommend as much as you can to go all in with the students. This is a pipeline of opportunity for you that you have a chance to do something that the dealership's never going to do, and that's win over a student. They know how to fill roles. They know how to check boxes. They know how to get funding and all that stupid stuff. We know how to make careers. We know how to change people's lives. We know how to do it the right way, take care of people. If we can sell that to the kids of tomorrow, they're going to be our technicians of tomorrow. Thank you for listening to my opinion. My name is Brad Updegraff with Dave's Ultimate Automotive. This has been For the Record Open Mic.